blackout. And y'all know what them blacks about. Yeah. Okay, say it with me. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Ain't no more black people going to hell. Let's go. Forget an LLC. The world was black owned. Black kings, black crowns on a black throne. Black kings, black queens making black clones. Black peace back east, bringing back those. Poverty, slavery, and they snatch souls. Prison system, feminism, and the crack soul. Still couldn't kill us, then we came back bold. The Most High put some fire on these black coals. I ain't here to jeopardize it, just to add a fire. This a Malcolm X mixed with some Hezekiah. This a Muhammad Ali with some Nehemiah. This some stop being the lowest, time to get higher. Even at our best, we still ain't maxed out. I wish I had a wood, I'd bring the axe out. And all we ever do is bring the facts out. Once the blacks come in, it's a blackout. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Ain't no more black people going to hell. Let's go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Ain't no more black people going to hell. Let's go. Ain't no more black people going to hell. Let's go. Ain't no more black people going to hell. Let's go. Ain't no more black people going to hell. Let's go. Let's go. Let's go. We're raising up Israel. Let's go. We're raising up the Israelites. Let's go. We're raising up Israel. Let's go. We're raising up the Israelites. Let's go.
All right, shalom, Israel. Sorry about the technical difficulties. As y'all can see from the video, we was trying to upload. I don't know what was going on with it, but it was skipping and cutting out and all that and whatnot. So we had to just go ahead and cut it out and just start all over again. Thank y'all for bearing with us. As it says in the title, we're going to be picking up today with chapter 37 and going to chapter 41. Excuse me. I got my twin brother in the business, Yanakotha Ben Douglas. What's going on, Yanakotha?
Shalom. What's going on, y'all? What's happening? You know, ready to get in this script. It's been a minute, man. I think we missed one. I think we missed like a week or two.
Yeah, we missed about a week. We missed about a week with everything going on.
Yeah, well, we back in the saddle. We back at it once again.
All right. Now, without further ado, I guess we'll go ahead and just jump right into this scripture.
All right, let me switch over here. If you want to pull up that Jasher 37, you got it.
Already ahead of you.
All right. So we had the book of Jasher, chapter 37, and verse 1. And it reads in this and likewise. And in the 115th year of the life of Jacob, that is the 9th year of Jacob's dwelling with his children in the land of Canaan, he came from Padan Aram. Verse 2. In those days, Jacob journeyed with his children from Hebron, and they went and returned to the city of Shechem, they and all belonging to them. And they dwelt there, for the children of Jacob obtained good and fat pasture, a land for their cattle in the city of Shechem. And the city of Shechem, having been rebuilt, there were in about 300 men and women. And Jacob and his children and all belonging to him dwelt in the part of the field which Jacob had bought for Hamor, from Hamor, the father of Shechem. And he came to Padan Aram before Simeon and Levi smitten the city. And all those kings of the Canaanites and the Amorites that surrounded the city of Shechem heard that the sons of Jacob had had again come to Shechem to dwell there. And they said, shall the sons of Jacob the Hebrew again come to the city and dwell therein? And after that, they have smitten its inhabitants and driven them out? Shall they now return also and drive out those who are dwelling in the city to slay them? And all the kings of Canaan again assembled, and they came together to make war with Jacob and his sons. Now, remind you, what set the tone for this was Shechem, the prince of Shechem, defiled Dinah, Jacob's daughter. He lay with her. He defiled her and took her and stole her virginity. And she was a young girl. And so Simeon and Levi told them they had to be circumcised in order for us to even consider such a thing. So when all the men of the city had done this, their elders refused to do it, and they went and snitched to their brethren, saying, hey, they over here circumcising themselves, doing this thing that our forefather never commanded us to do. And that's important because we were the only ones that did that. The circumcision of the foreskin. It's the sign between Abraham's descendants and Elohim. So picking up, they're asking, how again can Jacob and them come back to Shechem after having destroyed all of these people to live there? Surely they're going to try to war against them and try to kill them. So they're like, nah, we can't do this. So picking up in verse 6, it says, all the kings of Canaan again assembled, and they came together to make war with Jacob and his sons. And Yashub, king of Taphnach, sent also to all his neighboring kings, to Elon, the king of Gaash, and to Ihori, the king of Shiloh, into Pathron, the king of Khazar. I'm going to say that again. To Pathron, the king of Khazar, and to Suzi, the king of Sarton, and Laban, the king of Beth Koran, and Sebir, king of Othne Ma, saying, come up to me and assist me. Let us smite Jacob the Hebrew and his sons, and all belonging to him, for they are again come to Shechem to possess it and to slay its inhabitants as before. And all the kings assembled together and came with all their camp, and people exceedingly plentiful, like the sand upon the seashore. And they were all opposite of to Tapnach. And Yashub, king of Tapnach, went forth to them with all his army, and he encamped with them opposite of Tapnach without the city. And all the kings, they divided up into 7 divisions, saying, being 7 camps against the sons of Jacob. And they sent a declaration to Jacob and his sons, saying, come you all forth to us, that we may have an interview together in the plain, and revenge the cause of the men of Shechem whom you slay. See, this is their definition of a interview. They want to have they want them to come out there so they can kill them. See, it says to revenge the cause of the men of Shechem whom you slew in their city, and you now again return to the city of Shechem to dwell therein and slay its inhabitants as before. And the sons of Jacob heard this, and their anger was kindled greatly at the words of the kings of Canaan. And the 10 sons of Jacob hastened, they rose up. Each one of them girt on their weapons of war. I'm going to say that again. Each one of them rose up and girt on their weapons of war. There were 102 of their servants with them, equipped in battle array. All these men, sons of Jacob with their servants, went toward these kings, and Jacob, their father, was with them. I'm going to say that again. Jacob, Yaakov, their father, was with them, and they all stood upon the heap of Shechem. And Yaakov prayed to Yahuwah for his sons, and he spread his hands forth to Yahuwah, and he said, "O Yahuwah, O Yahuwah, thou art a mighty Elohim, for thou art our Father. Thou didst form us, and we are the works of thine hands. I pray thee, deliver my sons through thy mercy from the hands of their enemies, who are this day coming to fight with them. Save them from their hands. For in thy hand is power and might to save few from the many, to give unto my sons, thy servants, the strength and might to fight with their enemies." Excuse me. To fight, might to fight with their enemies, and to subdue them, and to make their enemies fall before them. Let not my sons and their servants die through the hands of the children of Canaan. But if it seemeth good in thine eyes, take away the lives of my sons and their servants, and take them in thy great mercy through the hands of thy ministers, that they may not perish this day by the hands of the kings of the Amorites. And when Yaakov ceased from praying to Yahuwah, the earth shook from its place. The sun darkened. All the kings were terrified, and great consternation seized them. And Yahuwah hearkened to the prayer of Yaakov, and Yahuwah impressed the hearts of all the kings and their hosts with terror, and all the sons of Jacob. And Yahuwah caused them to hear the voice of chariots and the voice of mighty horses from the sons of Yaakov, and the voice of many armies accompanying them. And these kings were seized with great terror in the sons of Yaakov, whilst they were standing in their quarters. Behold, the sons of Yaakov advanced upon them with 112 men, with a great and tremendous shouting. And when the kings saw the sons of Yaakov advancing toward them, they were still more panic struck. They were inclined to retreat from before the sons of Yaakov at first, and not to fight with them. But they did not retreat, saying, "It would be a disgrace to us to thus twice retreat from before the Hebrews." They say, I want to go, but I can't, because it would be an absolute reproach to run again. I can't do it. I'll be an absolute coward to run from these Hebrews again. They say, I can't do it. Verse 23. And the sons of Yaakov came near and advanced against all these kings in their armies. And they saw, and behold, it was a very mighty people, numerous as the sands of the sea. And the sons of Yaakov called unto Yahuwah and said, "Help us, O Yahuwah, help us, answer us, for we trust in thee. Let us not die by the hands of these uncircumcised men, who this day have come against us." And the sons of Yaakov girt on the weapons of war, and they took in their hands each man his shield and his javelin, and they approached to battle. And Yehuda, the son of Yaakov, ran first before his brethren, and 10 of his servants with him. And he went toward these kings. And Yashub, king of Tapnach, came forth first with his armies before Yehuda. And Yehuda saw Yashub and his armies coming toward him. And Yehuda's wrath was kindled. His anger burned within him. And he approached to battle, in which Yehuda ventured his life. And Yashub and all his army were advancing toward Yehuda. And he was riding upon a very strong and powerful horse. And Yashub was a very valiant man, covered with iron and brass from head to foot. Whilst he was upon the horse, he shot arrows with both hands from before and behind, As was his manner in his battles, he never missed the place which he aimed his arrows. When Yashub came to fight with Yehuda and was darting many arrows, came to fight with Yehuda and was darting many arrows against Yehuda, and Yahuwah bound the hands of Yashub, and all the arrows that he shot rebounded upon his own men. Notwithstanding this, Yashub kept advancing toward Yehuda to challenge him with arrows, but the distance between them was about 30 cubits. And when Yehuda saw Yashub darting forth his arrows against him, he ran to him with with his wrath excited might. And Yehuda took up a large stone from the ground. Its weight was 60 shekels. And Yehuda ran toward Yashub with the stone and struck him on his shield. And Yashub was stunned with the blow. Now, mind you, he's on the horse. And Yehuda ran up and hit him with a stone. And Yashub was stunned with this blow and fell off of his horse to the ground. And the shield burst asunder out of the hand of Yashub, and through the force of the blow sprang to the distance of about 15 cubits. And the shield fell before the second camp. And the kings that came with Yashub saw at a distance the strength of Yehuda and the son of Yaakov, and what he had done to Yashub. They were terribly afraid of Yehuda, and they assembled near Yashub's camp. Seeing his confusion, and Yehuda drew his sword and smote 42 men of the camp of Yashub, and the whole of Yashub's camp fled before Yehuda, and no man stood against him. They left Yashub and fled from him, and Yashub was still prostrated upon the ground. And Yashub, seeing that all the men of his camp had fled from him, hastened and rose up with terror against Yehuda, and stood upon his legs opposite of Yehuda. And Yashub had a single combat with Yehuda, placing shield before shield. Yashub's men fled, for they were greatly afraid of Yehuda. Yashub took his spear in his hand to strike Yehuda upon the head, but Yehuda had quickly placed his shield to his head against Yashub's spear, so that the shield of Yehuda received the blow, or the shield of Yehuda received the blow from Yashub's spear, and the shield was split in two. And when Yehuda saw that his shield was split, he hastily drew his sword and smote Yashub at the ankles. Sound familiar? Sound familiar? Smote Yashub at his ankles and cut off his feet, that Yashub fell upon the ground, and the spear fell from his hand. And Yehuda hastily picked up Yashub's spear, and with which he served his head. Wow. Oh, he severed his head and cast it next to his feet. So Yehuda took the spear of Yashub and cut off his own head with his own spear and threw his head to his feet. Verse 41. And when the sons of Yaakov saw what Yehuda had done to Yashub, they all ran into the ranks of the other kings, and the sons of Yaakov fought with the armies of Yashub and the armies of all the kings that were there. And the sons of Yaakov caused 15,000 of their men to fall. They smote them as if smiting a gourd, and the rest fled for their lives. Yehuda was still standing by the body of Yashub and stripped Yashub of his coat of meal. And Yehuda also took off the iron and brass that was about Yashub. Behold, 9 men of the captains of Yashub came along to fight against Yehuda. Oh, they didn't like him taking off all that expensive armor that this king had. Oh, they didn't like him defiling the body of their king. Oh, they didn't like that. And Yehuda hastened and took up a stone from the ground, and with it smote one of them upon the head, and his skull was fractured, and the body also fell from the horse to the ground. And the 8 captains that remained, seeing the strength of Yehuda, were greatly afraid, and they fled. And Yehuda, with his 10 men, pursued them, and they overtook them and slew them. No, y'all wanted that smoke. You wanted that smoke. You didn't know. You said you didn't want me touching it. Okay, come here. So it said they hastened and slew them, overtook them and slew them. And the sons of Yaakov were still smiting the armies of the kings, and they slew many of them. But those kings daringly kept their stand with their captains and did not retreat from their places. And they exclaimed against those of their armies that fled from before the sons of Yaakov, but none would listen to them, for they were afraid of their lives, lest they should die. And all the sons of Yaakov, after having smitten the armies of the kings, returned and came before Yehuda. And Yehuda was still slaying the 8 captains of Yashub and stripping off their garments. He wasn't just cutting them down. He was taking everything from them. They no longer had their title. It belonged to Judah. That's what that means when a soldier takes another soldier's armor. Right? So it says, and all the sons of Jacob, having smitten the armies of the kings, returned before Yehuda, who was still slaying the 8 captains of Yashub and stripping off their garments. And Levi saw Elon, king of Gaash, advancing toward them with his 14 captains to smite him. But Levi did not know it for certain. And Elon was with his captains approached nearer, and Levi looked back and saw that battle was given to him in the rear.
Hold on. I think your mic went out. Try it again.
All right, where did I leave off at?
All right, you kick back in. Start back over with verse 49.
Okay. I will start back over at verse 48. Okay, so we're at the point where they just came back to link back up with Yehuda, and Yehuda is still killing the 8 captains of Yashub and stripping off their garments. So in verse 49, it says, Levi sees Elon, the king of Gaash, advancing toward him with his 14 captains to smite him. But Levi did not know it for certain. Verse 50, Elon with his captains approached nearer, and Levi looked back and saw that the battle was given to him in the rear. And Levi ran with the 12 of his servants. They went and slew Elon and his captains with the edge of the sword. Going in chapter 38.
Right. Boy, talk about a way to go into chapter 38 too, boy. Full-on battle.
You know, now just for a recap, the war has broken out. The Amorites and the Canaanites have assembled to fight against the sons of Jacob.
Right. All right. Chapter 38, picking right on up. And Ahuri, king of Shiloh, came up to assist Elon, and he approached Yaakov when Yaakov drew his bow that was in his hand, and with an arrow struck Ahuri, which caused his death. And when in a hurry King of Shiloh was dead, the 4 remaining kings fled from their station with the rest of the captains, and they endeavored to retreat, saying, "We have no more strength with the Abri." After their having killed the 3 kings and their captains, who were more powerful than we are. And when the sons of Yaakov saw that the remaining kings had removed from their station, they pursued them. And Yaakov also came from the heap of Shechem, from the place where he was standing. And they went after the kings and approached them with their servants. And the kings and the captains with the rest of their army, seeing that the sons of Yaakov approached them, were afraid of their lives and fled till they reached the city Khazar. And the sons of Yaakov pursued them to the gate of the city of Khazar, and they smote a great smiting amongst the kings and their armies, about 4,000 men. And while they were smiting the army of the kings, Yaakov was occupied with his bow, confining himself to smiting the kings, and he slew them all. And he slew Parathon, king of Khazar, at the gate of the city of Khazar. And he afterwards smote Susi, king of Sartan, and Lavan, king of Bat Karan, and Shavar, king of Mechnamah. And he slew them all with arrows, an arrow to each of them, and they died. Boy, our father Yaakov was a bad somebody with that bow and arrow. You hear me? Sat back and at his old age was knocking the dust off of them, dropping them where they stood. Verse 7. And the sons of Yaakov, seeing that all the kings were dead and that they were broken up and retreating, continued to carry on the battle with the armies of the kings opposite the gate of Khazar. And they still smote about 400 of their men. And 3 men of the servants of Yaakov fell in that battle. And when Yehudah saw that 3 of his servants had died, it grieved him greatly, and his anger burned within him against the Amorites. And all the men that remained of the armies of the kings were greatly afraid of their lives, and they ran and broke the gate of the walls of the city of Khazar, and they all entered the city for safety. And they concealed themselves in the midst of the city of Khazar, for the city of Khazar was very large and extensive. And when all these armies had entered the city, the sons of Yaakov ran after them to the city. And 4 mighty men experienced in battle went forth from the city and stood against the entrance of the city with drawn swords and spears in their hands. And they placed themselves opposite the sons of Yaakov and would not suffer them to enter the city. Verse 12. And Naphtali ran and came between them, and with his sword smote 2 of them and cut off their heads at one stroke. And he turned to the other 2, and behold, they had fled, and he pursued them, overtook them, smote them, and slew them. Naphtali wasn't nothing to play with either, huh? And the sons of Yaakov came to the city, and saw, and behold, there was another wall to the city, and they sought for the gate of the wall, and could not find it. And Yehudah sprang upon the top of the wall, and Simeon and Levi followed him. And they all 3 descended from the wall into the city. And Simeon and Levi slew all the men who ran for safety into the city, and also the inhabitants of the city, with their women and little ones. They slew at the edge of the sword. And the cries of the city ascended up to the Shamaim. And Dan and Naphtali sprang upon the wall to see what caused the noise of lamentation. For the sons of Yaakov felt anxious about their brothers, and they heard the inhabitants of the city speaking with weeping supplications, saying, "Take all that we possess in the city and go away, only do not put us to death." And when Yehudah and Shimeon and Levi had ceased smiting the inhabitants of the city, they ascended the wall and called to Dan and Naphtali, who were upon the wall, and to the rest of their brothers, and Simeon and Levi informed them of the entrance into the city. And all the sons of Yaakov came to fetch the spoil. And the sons of Yaakov took the spoil of the city of Khazar, the flocks and herds, and the property. And they took all that could be captured, and went away that day from the city. Verse 19. And on the next day the sons of Yaakov went to Sartan, for they heard that the men of Sartan who had remained in the city were assembling to fight with them for having slain their king. And Sartan was a very high and fortified city, and it had a deep rampart surrounding the city. And the pillar of the rampart was about 50 cubits, and its breadth 40 cubits. And there was no place for a man to enter the city on account of the rampart. And the sons of Yaakov saw the rampart of the city, and they sought an entrance in it, but could not find it, for the entrance to the city was at the rear, and every man that wished to come into the city came by that road, and went around the whole city. And he afterwards entered the city. And the sons of Yaakov, seeing they could not find the way into the city, their anger was kindled greatly. And the inhabitants of the city, seeing that the sons of Yaakov were coming to them, were greatly afraid of them, for they had heard of their strength and what they had done to Khazar. And the inhabitants of the city of Sartan could not go out toward the sons of Yaakov after having assembled in the city to fight against them, lest they might thereby get into the city. But when they saw that they were coming toward them, they were greatly afraid of them, for they had heard of their strength and what they had done to Khazar. So the inhabitants of Sartan speedily took away the bridge of the road of the city from its place before the sons of Yaakov came, and they brought it into the city. And the sons of Yaakov came and sought the way into the city and could not find it. And the inhabitants of the city went up to the top of the wall and saw, and behold, the sons of Yaakov were seeking an entrance into the city. And the inhabitants of the city reproached the sons of Yaakov from the top of the wall, and they cursed them. And the sons of Yaakov heard the reproaches, and they were greatly incensed, and their anger burned within them. It's something about always thinking that you got a leg up, so all of a sudden you gotta talk trash. You just overly safety. You don't want to wait until the danger passed to at least talk trash, huh? Verse 27, Israel. And the sons of Yaakov were provoked at them, and they all rose and sprang over the rampart with the force of their strength, and through their might passed the 40 cubits breadth of the rampart. And when they had passed the rampart, they stood under the wall of the city, and they found all the gates of the city enclosed with iron doors. And the sons of Yaakov came near to break open the doors of the gates of the city, and the inhabitants did not let them, for from the top of the wall they were casting stones and arrows upon them. And the number of the people that were upon the wall was about 400 men. And the sons of Yaakov saw that the men of the city would not let them open the gates of the city. They sprang and ascended to the top of the wall. And Yehuda went up first to the east part of the city. And Gad and Asher went up after him to the west corner of the city. And Simeon and Levi to the north. And Dan and Reuben to the south. And the men who were on top of the wall, the inhabitants of the city, seeing that the sons of Yaakov were coming up to them, they all fled from the wall, descended into the city, and concealed themselves in the midst of the cities. So on top of talking trash, you also a punk. You also a ho-ho. As soon as they meet you up on top of the wall, you jump off the wall and go and conceal yourself in the city. Straight cowards. And Issachar and Naphtali, that remained under the wall approached and broke the gates of the city and kindled a fire at the gates of the city, that the iron melted, and all the sons of Yaakov came into the city, they and all their men, and they fought with the inhabitants of the city of Sartan, and smote them with the edge of the sword, and no man stood up before them. Verse 34. And about 200 men fled from the city, and they all went and hid themselves in a certain tower in the city. And Yehuda pursued them to the tower, and he broke down the tower, which fell upon the men, and they all died. Boy, he got that Samson strength. Verse 35. And the sons of Yaakov went up the road of the roof of that tower, and they saw, and behold, there was another strong and high tower at a distance in the city, and the top of it reached to heaven. And the sons of Yaakov hastened and descended, and went with all their men to that tower, and found it filled with about 300 men, women, and little ones. And the sons of Yaakov smote a great smiting amongst those men in the tower, and they ran away and fled from them. Verse 37. And Shimeon and Levi pursued them, when 12 mighty and valiant men came out to them from the place where they had concealed themselves. And those 12 men maintained a strong battle against Shimeon and Levi. And Shimeon and Levi could not prevail over them. And those valiant men broke the shields of Shimeon and Levi. And one of them struck at Levi's head with his sword, when Levi hastily placed his hand to his head, for he was afraid of the sword. And the sword struck Levi's hand, and it wanted but little to the hand of Levi being cut off. Almost cut off Levi's hand. Verse 39. And Levi seized the sword of the valiant man in his hand, and took it forcibly from the man. And with it he struck at the head of the powerful man, and severed his head. And 11 men approached to fight with Levi, for they saw that one of them was killed. And the sons of Yaakov fought, but the sons of Yaakov could not prevail over them, for those men were very powerful. And the sons of Yaakov, seeing that they could not prevail over them, Shimeon gave a loud and tremendous shriek. And the 11 powerful men were stunned at the voice of Shimeon shrieking. And Yehuda at a distance knew the voice of Shimeon shouting. And Naphtali and Yehuda ran with their shields to Shimeon and Levi, and found them fighting with those powerful men, unable to prevail over them, as their shields were broken. And Naphtali saw that the shields of Shimeon and Levi were broken, and he took 2 shields from his servants and brought them to Shimeon and Levi. And Shimeon and Levi and Yehuda on that day fought all 3 against the 11 mighty men until the time of sunset, but they could not prevail over them. Verse 45. And this was told unto Yaakov, and he was sorely grieved, and he prayed unto Yahuwah, and he and Naphtali his son went against these mighty men. And Yaakov approached and drew his bow, and came nigh unto the mighty men, and slew 3 of their men with the arrow, and the remaining 8 turned back. And behold, the war waged against them in the front and rear, and they were greatly afraid for their lives, and could not stand before the sons of Yaakov, and they fled from before them. And in their flight they met Dan and Asher coming toward them, and they suddenly fell upon them, and fought with them, and slew 2 of them. And Yehuda and his brothers pursued them, and smote the remainder of them, and slew them. And all the sons of Yaakov returned and walked about the city, searching if they could find any men. And they found about 20 young men in a cave in the city. And Gad and Asher smote them all. And Dan and Naphtali lighted upon the rest of the men who had fled and escaped from the second tower, and they smote them all. And the sons of Yaakov smote all the inhabitants of the city of Sarton. But the women and little ones they left in the city and did not slay them. And all the inhabitants of the city of Sarton were powerful men. One of them would pursue 1,000, and two of them would not flee from 10,000 of the rest of men. And the sons of Yaakov slew all the inhabitants of the city of Sarton with the edge of the sword. You see, they want to make sure to emphasize just a feat it was that our ancestors did, being able to defeat those men. That no man stood up against them, and they left the women in the city. And the sons of Yaakov took all the spoil of the city and captured what they desired. And they took flocks and herds and property from the city. And the sons of Yaakov did unto Sarton and its inhabitants as they had done to Khazar and its inhabitants. And they turned and went away. All right, going into chapter 39. As y'all see, these chapters that we are reading tonight are filled with a lot of
fights.
Right, fights.
All right. Well, it's about to get better, man. This was what known as the 7-Day War. So let's pick up at chapter 39. Chapter 39 of the book of Jasher in verse 1 reads this and likewise. And when the sons of Yaakov went from the city of Sarton, they had gone about 200 cubits when they met the inhabitants of Tapnach coming toward them. Oh, they had just got done with that situation in Sarton when they see the rest of those busters they had gotten into a fight with the day before coming toward them. These are the inhabitants of Tapnach. See, they still pissed off because Yehuda stripped their king on the battlefield in front of everybody. So they still a little pissed about that. So it says, for they went out to fight with them because they had smitten the king of Tapnach and all his men. See, I told you they were pissed. Verse 2. So all that remained of the city of Tapnach came out to fight with the sons of Yaakov, and they thought to retake from them the booty and the spoil that which had been captured from Khazar and Sarton. And the rest of the men of Tapnach fought with Yaakov in that place, and the sons of Yaakov smote them, and they fled from before them, and they pursued them to the city of Arbalan, and they all fell before the sons of Yaakov. And the sons of Yaakov returned and came to Tapnach to take away the spoil of Tapnach. When they came to Tapnach, they heard that the people of Arbalan had gone to meet them to save the spoil of their brethren. Like, all right, look, y'all not gonna keep trying to stop me. They lost. This is ours now. They're like, wait a minute. No, you can't do that. And our ancestors is really getting to the point. They're like, really? Okay. All right. Okay. So it says, and they pursued him to Arbalan, and they all fell. And it says, Yaakov's, the sons of Yaakov came to Tapnach to take away the spoils of Tapnach. And when they came to Tapnach, they heard that the people of Arbalan had gone to meet them to save the spoil from their brethren, or of their brethren. And the sons of Yaakov left 10 of their men in Tapnach to plunder the city. Just 10. We're going to leave 10. And they went onward to meet the people of Arbalan. And the men of Arbalan went out with their wives to fight. They was like, wait a minute, because we're not going to have what happened to these other two cities happen to us. Woman, you coming with it. Now imagine, y'all, hey, ladies, can you imagine your husband look at you like, I don't know what you keep keying for, you coming too. That's insane. It says, the men of Arbalan went out with their wives to fight the sons of Yaakov, for their wives were experienced in battle, and they went out. See, okay, so they was already ready for the smoke. And they went out, 400 men and women. And all the sons of Yaakov shouted with a loud voice, and they all ran toward the inhabitants of Arbalan. And with a great and tremendous voice, the inhabitants of Arbalan heard the noise of the shouting of the sons of Yaakov, and their roaring, like the noise of a lion, and the roaring like the waves of the seas. And fear and terror possessed the hearts on the account of the sons of Yaakov, and they were terribly afraid of them. And they retreated and fled from before them into the city. And the sons of Yaakov pursued them to the gate of the city, and they came upon them in the city. See, you can't come out talking about you ready to kill me and you want to go to war with me and then run away thinking I'm not going to follow you. And the sons of Yaakov fought with them in the city, and all their women were engaged in slinging against the stone. Slinging is, throwing stones, slingshot, against the sons of Yaakov. And the combat was very severe amongst them the whole of that day until evening. And the sons of Yaakov could not prevail over them. And the sons of Yaakov had almost perished in the battle. And the sons of Yaakov cried unto Yahuwah greatly, and gained strength toward evening. And the sons of Yaakov smote all the inhabitants of Arbalan by the edge of the sword, men, women, and little ones. Why? Because the women and the little ones was giving them the smoke too. They all had to go. It says, verse 11, and also the remainder of the people who had fled from Sartan, the sons of Yaakov smote them in Arbalan. And the sons of Yaakov did unto Arbalan and Tapnach as they had done unto Khazar and Sartan. And when the women saw that all the men were dead, they went upon the roofs of the cities and smote the sons of Yaakov by showering down stones like rain. And the sons of Yaakov hastened and came into the city and seized all the women and smote them with the edge of the sword. And the sons of Yaakov captured all the spoil and booty and flocks, herds, and cattle. And the sons of Yaakov did unto Macnaima as they had done to Tapnach, Khazar, and Shiloh. And they returned, turned from there and went away. And on the 5th day, the sons of Yaakov heard that the people of Gaash had gathered against them to battle, because they had slain their king and their captains. For there had been 14 captains in the city of Gaash, and the sons of Yaakov had slain them all in the first battle. And it says, the sons of Yaakov that day girt on their weapons of war, and they marched to battle against the inhabitants of Gaash. And in Gaash there was a strong and mighty people of the Amorites. And Gaash was strong and best fortified city of all the cities of the Amorites. It had 3 walls. And the sons of Yaakov came to Gaash, and they found the gate of the city locked, and about 500 men standing at the top of the outer wall, and people numerous as the sands of the sea shore were in ambush for the sons of Yaakov from without the city in the rear thereof. And the sons of Yaakov approached to open the gates of the city. Whilst they were drawing nigh, behold, those in ambush at the rear of the city came forth from their place and surrounded the sons of Yaakov. And the sons of Yaakov were enclosed between the people of Gaash in the battle, both in the front and the rear. And all the men that were upon the wall were casting from the wall upon them arrows and stones. And Yehuda seeing that the men of Gaash were getting too heavy for them, gave the most piercing and tremendous shriek, and all the men of Gaash were terrified at the voice of Yehuda's cry. And the men fell from the wall at his powerful shriek, and all those that were from without and within the city were greatly afraid of their lives. And the sons of Yaakov still came nigh to break the doors of the city, when the men of Gaash threw stones and arrows upon them from the top of the wall, and made them flee from the gate. And the sons of Yaakov returned against the men of Gaash, who were with them from without the city, and they smote them terribly, as striking against gourds. And they could not stand against the sons of Yaakov, for fright and terror had seized them at the shriek of Yehuda. And the sons of Yaakov slew all those men who were without the city. And the sons of Yaakov still drew nigh to effect an entrance into the city and to fight under the city walls. But they could not, for all the inhabitants of Gaash who remained in the city had surrounded the walls of Gaash in every direction, so that the sons of Yaakov were unable to approach the city to fight with them. And the sons of Yaakov came nigh to one corner to fight under the wall, and the inhabitants of Gaash threw stones and arrows upon them like showers of rain, and they fled from under the wall. And the people of Gaash who were upon the wall, seeing that the sons of Yaakov could not prevail over them from under the wall, they reproached the sons of Yaakov in these words, saying, this is what they said: what is the matter with you in the battle that you cannot prevail? Can you then do unto the mighty city of Gaash and its inhabitants as you did to the cities of the Amorites that were not so powerful? Surely to those weak ones amongst us you did those things and slew them in the entrance of the city, for they had no strength when they were terrified at the sound of your shouting. And will you now then be able to fight in this place? Surely here you will all die. We will avenge the cause of those cities that you have laid waste. And the inhabitants of Gaash greatly reproached the sons of Yaakov and reviled them with their gods. And to continue to cast arrows and stones upon them from the wall. And Yehuda and his brothers heard the words of the inhabitants of Gaash, and their anger was greatly aroused. And Yehuda was jealous of his Elohim in this matter, and he called out and said, Yahuwah, help, send help to us and our brothers. And he ran at a distance with all his might, with his drawn sword in hand, and he sprang from the earth. And by dint of his strength, mounted the wall. His sword fell from his hand, and Yehuda shouted upon the wall, and all the men that were upon the wall were terrified. And some of them fell from the wall of the city and died. And those who were yet upon the wall, they saw that Yehuda's strength. When they saw Yehuda's strength, they were greatly afraid and fled for their lives into the city for safety. Some were emboldened to fight with Yehuda upon the wall, and they came nigh to slay him when they saw there was no sword in Yehuda's hand. They thought of casting him from the wall to his brothers, and 20 men of the city came up to assist them. And they, surrounding Yehuda, they all shouted over him and approached him with drawn swords, and they terrified Yehuda. And Yehuda cried out to his brothers from the wall. And Yaakov and his sons drew the bow from under the wall and smote 3 of the men that were upon the top of the wall. And Yehuda continued to cry with great exclaim, "O Yahuwah, help us. O Yahuwah, deliver us." He cried out with a loud voice from upon that wall, and the cry was heard at a great distance. After this, he cried again, repeated to shout. And all the men who surrounded Yehuda on top of the wall were terrified. They each threw his sword from his hand at the sound of Yehuda's shouting and his terror and his tremor, and fled. And Yehuda took the swords which had fallen from their hands, and Yehuda fought with them and slew 20 of their men upon the wall. About 80 men and women still ascending from the wall from the city, they all surrounded Yehuda. And Yahuwah impressed the fear of Yehuda in their hearts, that they were unable to approach him. And Yaakov and all who were with him drew the bow from under the wall, and they slew 10 men on the wall, and they fell below the wall before Jacob and his sons. And the people upon the wall, seeing that 20 of their men had fallen, they still ran toward Yehuda with drawn swords, but they could not approach him, for they were greatly terrified at Yehuda's strength. And one of their mighty men, whose names was Arud, approached to strike Yehuda upon the head with his sword. When Yehuda hastily put up the shield, and the sword hit the shield, and it was split in two. And this mighty man, after he struck Yehuda, ran for his life. Some kind of mighty man. Hold up, pause. We'll read this again. Verse 39. It says, the mighty man, after he had struck Yehuda, ran for his life at the fear of Yehuda, and his feet slipped upon the wall, and he fell amongst the sons of Yaakov who were below the wall. And the sons of Yaakov smote and slew him. Like, come on, man. That's got to be the biggest coward thing I've ever seen. And
most definite. But remember, that don't mean mighty man as in, you know, he was a mighty man. Mighty man, another term for mighty man is also giant.
Mm-hmm.
You feel me?
I feel you.
Those are the ones that came out as the giants that lived amongst them.
I feel you, but he was a whole coward.
Exactly. Yeah. He was a big ass coward. He just happened to be a giant coward.
Classic fun work. All right, pick it up at verse 40. And Yehuda's head pained him from the blow of the powerful man, and Yehuda had nearly died from it. And Yehuda cried out from upon the wall, owing to the pain produced by the blow. When Dan heard him, and his anger burned with him, and he also rose up and went at a distance and ran and sprang from the earth and mounted the wall with his exceedingly wrath strength. And when Dan came upon the wall near unto Yehuda, all the men upon the wall fled, who had stood against Yehuda. And they went and ascended atop the second wall, and they threw arrows and stones upon Dan and Yehuda from the second wall, and endeavored to drive them from the wall. And the arrows and the stones struck Dan and Yehuda, but they had nearly been killed upon the wall. And wherever Dan and Yehuda fled from the wall, they were attacked with arrows and stones from the second wall. And Yaakov and his sons were still at the entrance of the city below at the first wall, and they were not able to draw the bow against the inhabitants of the city, as they could not be seen by them, being upon the second wall. And Dan and Yehuda, when they could no longer bear the stones and the arrows, they fell upon them from the second wall. They both sprang upon the second wall near the people of the city. So when they couldn't take it no more, they sprang up to the second wall near the people of the city. And when the people of the city who were upon the second wall saw that Dan and Yehuda had come upon the second wall, they cried out and descended below between the walls. They took off running. They went in between the walls. They started just dropping in between. And Yaakov and his sons heard the noise of the shouting from the people of the city, and they were still at the entrance of the city, and they were anxious about Dan and Yehuda, who were not seen by them, that they were being upon the second wall. And Naphtali went up with exceedingly wrath and might, and sprang upon the first wall to see what the cause of the noise and the shouting which they had heard in the city. And Issachar, Zebulun drew nigh. Yeah, Issachar and Zebulun drew nigh to break the doors of the city and open the gates of the city, and came into the city. And Naphtali leaped from the first wall to the second wall, and came to assist his brothers. And the inhabitants of Gaash who were upon the wall, seeing Naphtali was the third who had came up to assist his brothers, they all fled and descended into the city. And Yaakov and all his sons and all their young men came into the city to them. And Yehuda, Dan, Naphtali descended from the wall into the city and pursued the inhabitants of the city. And Simeon and Levi were from without the city, and knew not that the gate was open, and that and they went up from there from the wall and came down to their brothers into the city. See, they didn't even know the gate was open. They were just out there chilling. Yes. It says, and the inhabitants of the city had all descended into the city, and the sons of Yaakov came to them from different directions. And the battle waged against them from the front, the rear. And the sons of Yaakov smote them terribly, and slew about 20,000 of them, men, women. Not one of them could stand up against the sons of Yaakov. And the blood flowed plentifully from that city. It was like a brook of water, and the blood flowed like a brook out of the part of the city and reached the desert of Bechorin. And the people of Bechorin saw at a distance the blood flowing from the city. Damn, that had to have been a lot of blood. That had to have been a lot of blood for them to see this blood come flowing at them like a river.
I mean, shoot, you talking 20,000? You know how much blood each body holds? Yeah, that's a lot of blood. It's a nice little, I won't say a river, but a nice little creek.
Yeah, it said a brook, so yeah, well, it's right there. So it says, verse 52, the people of Beth-Corin saw it at a distance that the blood flowing from the Gaash was about 70 men from amongst them ran to see the blood, and they came to the place where the blood was, and they followed the track of the blood and came to the wall of Gaash, and they saw the blood issue from the city. And they heard the voice of the crying from the inhabitants of Gaash, for it ascended unto heaven, and the blood was continuing to flow abundantly like a brook of water. And all of the sons of Yaakov were still smiting the inhabitants of Gaash, and were engaged in slaying them until evening, about 20,000 men and women. And the people of Corinth said, surely this is the work of the Hebrews, for they are still carrying on war in all the cities of the Amorites. Like, whoa, 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 whoa. They are pissed. This is them Hebrews they did. The Hebrews did that. In verse 55, it says, those people hastened and ran to Beth-Corin. Each took his weapon of war, and they cried out to the inhabitants of Beth-Corin, who girt on their weapons of war, to go and fight with the sons of Yaakov. And when the sons of Yaakov had done smiting the inhabitants of Gaash, they walked about the city to strip all the slain. And coming to the innermost part of the city, the farther on it says the farther that they met 3 very powerful men, and there was no sword in their hands. And the sons of Yaakov came up to this place where they were, and the powerful men ran away. And one of them had taken Zebulun, who he saw was a young lad of short stature, and with his might dashed him to the ground. And Yaakov ran to him with his sword. I'm gonna say that again, not Yehuda. It says Yaakov ran to him with his sword, and Yaakov smote him below his loins with his sword and cut him in two, and the body fell upon Zebulun. And the second one approached and seized Yaakov to fell him to the ground, and Yaakov turned to him and shouted to him, while Simeon and Levi ran and smote him on the hips with the sword and fell him to the ground. It says, the powerful man rose up from the ground with exceedingly wrath, and Yehuda came to him, and before he had gained his footing, struck him on the head with the sword, and his head was split, and he died. And the third powerful man, seeing that his companions were killed, ran from before the sons of Yaakov. And the sons of Yaakov pursued him in the city. They said, no, you wanted that smoke. Whilst the powerful man was fleeing, he found one of the swords of the inhabitants of the city and picked it up and turned to the sons of Yaakov and fought with them with that sword. And the powerful man ran to Yehuda to strike him upon the head with the sword, and there was no shield in the hand of Yehuda. Whilst he was aiming to strike him, Naphtali hastily took his shield and put it to Yehuda's head, and the sword of the powerful man hit the shield of Naphtali, and Yehuda escaped the sword. And Simeon and Levi ran upon the powerful man with their swords and struck him forcibly with their swords, and the two swords entered the body of the powerful man and divided it in two lengthwise. And the sons of Yaakov smote the 3 men at that time. Smote the mighty men, the 3 mighty men at that time, together with all the inhabitants of Gaash. And the day was about to decline, and the sons of Yaakov walked about Gaash and took all the spoil of the city, even the little ones, and the women they did not suffer to live. And the sons of Yaakov did unto Gaash as they did unto Sartan and Shelah.
Picking right on up into chapter 40. Like we said, what we reading here tonight has got to do with a lot of blood being spilt in the land. And you see how it officially became our land, because we might have killed everybody, but we made sure to take that land too. All right, chapter 40. And the sons of Yaakov led away all the spoils of Gaash and went out of the city by night. They were going out marching toward the castle of Bat Karan, and the inhabitants of Bat Karan were going to the castle to meet them. And on that night, the sons of Yaakov fought with the inhabitants of Bat Karan in the castle of Bat Karan, and all the inhabitants of Bat Karan were mighty men. All the inhabitants of Bat Karan were giants. One of them would not flee from before 1,000 men, and they fought on that night upon the castle. And their shouts were heard on that night from afar, and the earth quaked with their shouting. And all the sons of Yaakov were afraid of those men, as they were not accustomed to fight in the dark, and they were greatly confounded. And the sons of Yaakov cried to Yahuwah, saying, Give help to us, O Yahuwah, deliver us, that we may not die by the hands of these uncircumcised men. And Yahuwah hearkened to the voice of the sons of Yaakov, and Yahuwah caused a great terror and confusion to seize the people of Bat Karan. And they fought amongst themselves, the one with the other in the darkness of the night, and smote each other in great numbers. And the sons of Yaakov, knowing that Yahuwah had brought a ruach of perversiveness amongst them, those men, and that they fought each man with his neighbor, went forth from among the bands of the people of Bat Karan, and went as far as the descent of the castle of Bat Karan, and farther, and they tarried there securely with their young men on that night. He said, while y'all fighting each other and killing each other, we're going to go ahead and hunker down at the back of the city and rest up a little bit. And the people of Bat Karan fought the whole night, one man with his brother and the other with his neighbor. And they cried out in every direction upon the castle. And their cry was heard at a distance. And the whole earth shook at their voice, for they were powerful above all the people of the earth. Just told y'all, they were giants. Another term for giant were known as mighty men. And all the inhabitants of the city of the Canaanites, the Kittites, and the Amorites, and the Hivites, and all the kings of Canaan, and all those who were on the other side of the Jordan, heard the noise of the shouting on that night. Verse 9, and they said, surely these are the battles of the Hebrews, the Ivri, who are fighting against the 7 cities, who came nigh unto them, and who can stand against those Ivri. And all the inhabitants of the cities of Canaan, of the Canaanites, and all those who were on the other side of the Jordan were greatly afraid of the sons of Yaakov, for they said, behold, the same will be done to us as was done to those cities, for who can stand against their mighty strength? And the cries of the Koranim were very great on that night, and continued to increase. And they smote each other until morning, and numbers of them were killed. And the morning appeared, and all the sons of Yaakov rose up at daybreak, and went up to the castle, and they smote those who remained of the Koranim in a terrible manner, and they were all killed in the castle. And the 6th day appeared, and all the inhabitants of Canaan saw at a distance all the people of Bat Karan lying dead in the castle of Bat Karan, and strewed about as the carcasses of lambs and goats. And the sons of Yaakov led all the spoil which they had captured from Gaash, and went to Bat Karan, and they found the city full of people like the sand of the sea, and they fought with them. And the sons of Yaakov smote them there till evening time. And the sons of Yaakov did unto Bat Karan as they had done to Gaash, and Tapnach, and as they had done to Khazar, to Sartan, and to Shiloh. And the sons of Yaakov took with them the spoil of Bach-haran, and all the spoil of the cities. And on that day they went home to Shechem. And the sons of Yaakov came home to the city of Shechem, and they remained without the city, and they then rested there from the war, and tarried there all night. Verse 18. And all their servants, together with all the spoil that they had taken from the cities, they left without the city. And they did not enter the city, for they said, perchance there may be yet more fighting against us, and they may come to beseech us in Shechem. And Yaakov and his sons and their servants remained on that night and the next day in the portion of the field which Yaakov had purchased from Hamor for 5 shekels, and all that they had captured was with them, and all the booty which the sons of Yaakov had captured was in the portion of the field, immense as the sand upon the seashore. And the inhabitants of the land observed them from afar, and all the inhabitants of the land were afraid of the sons of Yaakov, who had done this thing, for no king from the days of old had ever done the like. And the 7 kings of the Canaan, and the 7 kings of the Canaan resolved to make peace with the sons of Yaakov, for they were greatly afraid of their lives on account of the sons of Yaakov. And on that day, being the 7th day, Japhiah, king of Hebron, sent secretly to the king of Ai, and to the king of Gavon, and to the king of Shalim, and to the king of Adullam, and to the king of Lachish. Get that? The king of Lachish, and to the king of Khazar, and to all the Canaan kings who were under their subjection, saying, go up with me, and come to me, that we may go to the sons of Yaakov, and I will make peace with them, and form a treaty with them, lest all your lands be destroyed by the swords of the sons of Yaakov, as they did to Shechem and the cities around it, as you have heard and seen. And when you come to me, do not come with many men, but let every king bring his 3 head captains, and every captain bring 3 of his officers. And come all of you to Hebron, and we will go together to the sons of Yaakov and supplicate them, and they shall form a treaty of peace with us. Verse 27. And all those kings did as the king of Hebron had sent to them, for they were all under his counsel and command. And all the kings of Canaan assembled to go to the sons of Yaakov to make peace with them. And the sons of Yaakov returned and went to the portion of the field that was in Shechem, for they did not put confidence in the kings of the land. And the sons of Yaakov returned and remained in the portion of the field 10 days, and no one came to make war with them. And the sons of Yaakov saw that there was no appearance of war. They all assembled and went to the city of Shechem, and the sons of Yaakov remained in Shechem. Verse 30. And at the expiration of 40 days, all the kings of the Amorim assembled from all their places and came to Hebron, to Japhiah, king of Hebron. And the number of kings that came to Hebron to make peace with the sons of Yaakov was 21 kings. And the number of captains that came with them was 69, and their men were 189. And all these kings and their men rested by Mount Hebron, or Mount Hebron. And the king of Hebron went out with his 3 captains and 9 men. And these kings resolved to go to the sons of Yaakov to make peace. And they said unto the king of Hebron, Go you before us with your men, and speak for us unto the sons of Yaakov, and we will come after you, and confirm your words. And the king of Hebron did so. He said, hey, we might listen to you, and we might have to take your command, but you go ahead and you go first. And we back up everything that you say, just in case they kill you first. Verse 34. And the sons of Yaakov heard that all the kings of Canaan had gathered together and rested in Hebron. And the sons of Yaakov sent 4 of their servants as spies, saying, Go and spy these kings, and search and examine their men, whether they are few or many. And if they are but few in number, number them all and come back. And the servants of Yaakov went secretly to these kings, and did as the sons of Yaakov had commanded them. And on that day they came back to the sons of Yaakov, and said unto them, We came unto those kings, and they are but few in number. And we numbered them all, and behold, they were 288 kings and men. And the sons of Yaakov said, There are but few in number, therefore we will not all go out to them. And in the morning the sons of Yaakov rose up, and chose 62 of their men, and 10 of the sons of Yaakov went with them. And they girt on their weapons of war, for they said, They are coming to make war with us, for they knew not that they were coming to make peace with them. And the sons of Yaakov went with their servants to the gate of Shechem, toward the kings, those kings, and their father Yaakov was with them. And when they had come forth, behold, the king of Hebron and his 3 captains and 9 men with them were coming along the road against the sons of Yaakov. And the sons of Yaakov lifted up their eyes, and saw at a distance Japhiah, king of Hebron, with his captains, coming towards them. And the sons of Yaakov took their stand at the place of the gate of Shechem, and did not proceed. And the king of Hebron continued to advance, he and his captains, until he came nigh to the sons of Yaakov, and he and his captains bowed down to them to the ground. And the king of Hebron sat with his captains before Yaakov and his sons. All right, verse 40. And the sons of Yaakov said unto him, What has befallen you, O king of Hebron? Why have you come to us this day? What do you require from us? And the king of Hebron said unto Yaakov, I beseech you, my Adonai, all the kings of the Canaan have come this day, come to make peace with you. And the sons of Yaakov heard the words of the king of Hebron, and they would not consent, and they would not consent to his proposals, for the sons of Yaakov had no faith in him, for they imagined that the king of Hebron had spoken deceitfully to them. And the king of Hebron knew from the words of the sons of Yaakov that they did not believe his words. And the king of Hebron approached nearer to Yaakov, and said unto him, I beseech you, my Adonai, do be assured that all these kings have come to you on peaceable terms, for they have not come with all their men, neither did they bring their weapons of war with them, for they have come to seek peace from my Adonai and his sons. And the sons of Yaakov answered the king of Hebron, saying, Send you to all these kings, and if you speak truth unto us, let them each come singly before us. And if they come unto us unarmed, we shall then know that they seek peace from us. And Yaphiah, king of Kebron, sent one of his men to the kings, and they all came before the sons of Yaakov and bowed down to them to the ground. And these kings sat before Yaakov and his sons, and they spoke unto them, saying, We have heard all that you did unto the kings of the Amorim with your sword and exceedingly mighty arm, so that no man could stand up before you. And we were afraid of you for the sake of our lives, lest it should befall us as it did to them. So we have come unto you to form a treaty of peace between us. And now, therefore, contract with us a covenant of peace and truth, that you will not meddle with us, inasmuch as we have not meddled with you. They said, hey, we don't want none of that smoke you done brought to our brethren. Don't mess with us. We won't mess with you. Let good things be good things. Verse 47. And the sons of Yaakov knew that they had really come to seek peace from them. And the sons of Yaakov listened to them and formed a covenant with them. And the sons of Yaakov swore unto them that they would not meddle with them. And all the kings of the Canaanites swore also to them. And the sons of Yaakov made them tributary from that day forward. And after this, all the captains of these kings came with their men before Yaakov with presents in their hands for Yaakov and his sons, and they bowed down to him to the ground. And these kings then urged the sons of Yaakov and begged of them to return all the spoil that they had captured from the 7 cities of the Amorim, or the Amorites. And the sons of Yaakov did so, and they returned all that they had captured, the women, the little ones, the cattle, and all spoil which they had taken, and they sent them off, and they went away, each to his city. And all these kings again bowed down to the sons of Yaakov, and they sent or brought them many gifts in those days. And the sons of Yaakov sent off these kings and their men, and they went peaceably away from them to their cities. And the sons of Yaakov also returned to their home, to Shechem. And there was peace from that day forward between the sons of Yaakov and the kings of the Canaanites, until the children of Jasher came to inherit the land of Canaan. So it already goes ahead, and as we're finishing up chapter 40, it lets you know there is peace all the way up until Jasher came back to inherit the land of Canaan, which of course we'll get further into as we go further into the book of Jasher.
Okay, so we're at chapter 41, last chapter of the night. Let's see what happens. Now, mind you, recapping what's going on here, there was a 5-day, 6-day war. Our ancestors pretty much took all of the kingdoms of the Amorites, which means all that land belonged to us to begin with, to include Shechem, which was it says it was our home because they had taken Shechem. So we're going to pick up in verse 1 of chapter 41. And it says, at the revolution of the year, the sons of Yaakov journeyed from Shechem, and they came to Hebron to their father Isaac, and they dwelt there. Now, remember, the king of Hebron just showed up to holler at Yaakov about this war. See, he knew not to go to Isaac. He knew better. And he had great respect for Isaac, which is why he came to Yaakov the way he came to Yaakov, because Isaac lived in Hebron, where the king of Hebron is. So it says, and they came to Hebron to their father Isaac, and they dwelt there. but their flocks and their herds they fed daily in Shechem, for there was there in those days good and fat pasture. And Jacob and his sons and all their household dwelt in the valley of Hebron. And it was in those days, in the year, being the 106th year of the life of Jacob, in the 10th year of Jacob's coming from Padan Aram, that Leah, the wife of Jacob, had died. She was 51 years old when she died in Hebron. And Jacob and his wife and Jacob and his sons buried her in the cave of the field of Machpelah, which is in Hebron, which Abraham bought from the children of Heth for a possession, a burial place. And the sons of Jacob dwelt with their father in the valley of Hebron. And all the inhabitants of the land knew their strength and their fame, and their fame went throughout the land. And Joseph, the son of Jacob, and his brother Benjamin, the sons of Rachel, the wife of Jacob, were yet young in those days, and did not go out with their brethren during their battles in all the cities of the Amorites. And when Joseph saw the strength of his brethren and their greatness, he praised them and exalted them. But he ranked himself greater than them and extolled himself above them. And Jacob, his father, also loved him more than any of his sons, for he was the son of his old age. Through his love toward him, he made him a coat of many colors. And Joseph saw his father loved him more than his brothers, and he continued to exalt himself more than his brothers, and brought unto his father evil reports concerning them. He was a snitch. He tattletaled. He was a snitch. And the sons of Jacob, seeing the whole of Joseph's conduct toward them, and that their father loved them more than any of them, they hated him and could not speak peaceably to him all the days. And Joseph was 17 years old when he was still magnifying himself above his brethren and thought of raising himself above them. At this time he had a dream, and he came to his brothers and told them the dream. And he said, I had a dream, and behold, we were binding sheaves in the field, and my sheaf rose in its place and placed itself on the ground, and your sheaves surrounded it and bowed down to it. And his brethren answered and said unto him, what is the meaning of this dream that thou didst dream? Dost thou imagine in thy heart to reign or rule over us? He still came and told this thing to his father. And Jacob kissed Joseph when he heard these words from his mouth, and Jacob blessed Joseph. When the sons of Jacob saw their father had blessed Joseph and kissed him, that he loved him exceedingly, they became jealous of him and hated him more. And after this, Joseph dreamed another dream, related the dream to his father in the presence of his brothers. And Joseph said unto his father, behold, I again have dreamed a dream, and behold, the sun and the moon and the 11 stars bowed down to me. And his father heard the words of Joseph in his dream, seeing that his brothers hated Joseph on the account of this matter. And Jacob therefore rebuked Joseph before his brethren on the account of this thing, saying, what meaneth this dream which thou didst dream? And this magnifying thyself before thy brother who are older than thou art. Dost thou imagine in thy heart that I and thy mother and thy 11 brethren will come and bow down to thee, that thou speakest these things? And his brothers were jealous of him on the account of these words of his dreams, and they continued to hate him. And Joseph reserved his dreams in his heart. And the sons of Yaakov went one day to feed their father's flock in Shechem, for they were still herdsmen in those days, whilst the sons of Yaakov were that day feeding in Shechem. They delayed, and the time of gathering the cattle had passed, and they had not yet arrived. And Yaakov saw that their sons delayed in Shechem, and Yaakov said within himself, peradventure, the people of Shechem have risen up to fight against them. Therefore, they have delayed coming this day. And Yaakov called Joseph, his son, and commanded him, saying, behold, thy brother are feeding in Shechem this day. Behold, they have not yet come back. Go now, therefore, and see where they are, and bring me back word concerning the welfare of thy brother and the welfare of the flock. And Yaakov and sent his son Joseph to the valley of Hebron. And Joseph came for his brothers to Shechem, but could not find them. And Joseph went about the field which was near Shechem to see where his brothers had turned. And he missed his road in the wilderness and knew not which way to go. But an angel of Yahuwah found him wandering in the road toward the field. And Joseph said unto the angel of Yahuwah, I seek my brethren. Hast thou heard where they are feeding? And the angel of Yahuwah said unto Joseph, I saw thy brother feeding here. I heard them say that they would go feed in Dothan. And Joseph hearkened to the voice of the angel of Yahuwah, and he went to his brethren in Dothan and found them in Dothan feeding the flock. And Joseph advanced to his brothers, and before he had come nigh, they had resolved to slay him. And Simeon said to his brothers, behold, the man of dreams is coming unto us this day. Now, therefore, come, let us kill and cast him in one of these pits that there are in this wilderness. And when his father shall seek him from us, we shall say, an evil beast devoured him. And Reuben heard the words of his brother concerning Joseph, and said unto them, you should not do this thing. For now, how can we look upon our father Yaakov? Cast him into this pit to die there. But stretch not forth your hand upon him to spill blood. And Reuben said this in order to deliver him from their hand and bring him back to his father. And when Joseph came to his brother, he sat before them, and they rose and seized and smote him to the earth, and stripped off the coat of many colors which he had on. And they took and cast him into the pit. In the pit there was no water, but serpents and scorpions. And Joseph was afraid of the serpents and scorpions in the pit. And Joseph cried out with a loud voice, and Yahuwah hid the serpents and the scorpions in the sides of the pit, and they did not harm Joseph. And Joseph called out from the pit to his brother and said, what have I done to you? And what have I sinned? Why do you not fear Yahuwah concerning me? Am I not your bones and flesh? Is not Yaakov your father, my father? Why did you do this thing to me this day? How will you be able to look upon our father Yaakov? And he continued to cry and call unto his brother from the pit. And he said, O Yehuda, Simeon, Levi, my brethren, lift me out of this place from the darkness in which you have placed me, and come this day and have compassion on me. Yea, children of Yahuwah, sons of Yaakov, my father, if I have sinned unto you, are you not the sons of Abraham, Isaac, and Yaakov? If they saw an orphan, they had compassion over him, and no one, or one who was hungry, he gave him bread to eat, or one that was thirsty, they gave him water to drink, or one that was naked, they covered them in garments. How then will you withhold your pity from your brother? For I am your flesh of your bones. And if I have sinned against you, surely you will do this on the account of my father. And Joseph spoke these words from the pit, and his brother could not listen to him, nor incline their ears to the words of Joseph, and Joseph was crying and weeping in the pit. And Joseph said, "Oh, that my father knew this day the act which my brethren have done to me, the words which have been spoken unto me." All this, and all his brethren heard his cries and weeping in the pit. And his brethren went and removed themselves from the pit, so that they might not hear the cries of Joseph weeping in the pit. All right. Selah.
Selah, Selah. All right, Israel. That concludes this evening's study. Thank y'all again for bearing witness with us. Thank y'all again for walking through these scriptures with us. We love y'all. One of these days, all of this is just going to come together, and we ain't going to keep having little hiccups here and there, and it'll be a lot smoother. But just to go ahead and recap, we have gone from chapter 37. We have just finished up chapter 41. Our next one will be picking right back up with chapter 42. I hope that y'all are really enjoying this. As y'all see, the more that we do this, the more unique the page is getting, the better it's growing, so on and so forth. So while we're doing that, we need y'all to go ahead and stick by our side. Don't forget to hit that like, share, subscribe, and click the notification button for the nation. Also, go over to our primary channel, the Negro Onlys. Do the same thing over there. We got our sister Hadassah with the Hidden Ones is doing her thing over there. Ak Kadar, go check out his channel. Got a lot of great things going on within the Negro Onlys. And there's information everywhere. However you want it, however you can possibly get it, we have something for everybody. Got anything to say, Yana Colton?
Shout out to the comment section. Hey, praise him. Shout out, shalom. Sis Yamisha, shalom. All of y'all that's gonna catch this and check it out and read it. I hope it's some edification to your bones. And remember, my favorite scripture is Ecclesiastes 12:13. Fear Yahuwah and keep his commands, for this is the duty of all man. That right there. Let that resonate in your bones, because that's the conclusion of the entire matter.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I'll say, Baruch atah Yahuwah Sebaoth bara ha shemayim v'haretz Eloyakim shel Abraham Yitzchak Yaakov Eloheinu va'ala Kodesh Ekad Yashel Elohai Vashai Ashen Natan Lanu Ha Ruach Shalom. Blessed are you, Yahuwah, the armies, creator of the heavens and the earth, the Elohim of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, our Elohim, the Holy One of Israel, my El and my salvation, for giving us the spirit of peace. Until next time, Israel.
Yeah, it's the blackout. And y'all know what them blacks about. Yeah. Okay, say it with me. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Ain't no more black people going to hell. Let's go. Forget an LLC. The world was black owned. Black kings, black crowns on a black throne. Black kings, black queens making black clones. Black peace back east, bringing back those. Poverty, slavery, and they snatch souls. Prison system, feminism, and the crack soul. Still couldn't kill us, then we came back bold. The Most High put some fire on these black coals. I ain't here to jeopardize it, just to edify ya. This a Malcolm X mixed with some Hezekiah. This a Muhammad Ali with some Nehemiah. This some stop being the lowest, time to get higher. Even at our best, we still ain't maxed out. I wish 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Ain't no more black people going to hell. Let's go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Ain't no more black people going to hell. Let's go. Ain't no more black people going to hell. Let's go. Ain't no more black people going to hell. Let's go. Ain't no more black people going to hell. Let's go. Let's go. Let's go. We're raising up Israel. Let's go. We're raising up the Israelites. Let's go. We're raising up Israel. Let's go. We're raising up the Israelites. Let's go. Yeah, it's the blackout.